star Paul O'Grady.
Will you please put your hands together? Raise the roof.
Miss Lily Savage.
What, have you never seen leopard skin capri pants before? What's up with you? OK, take it away. 1, 2, 3. Oh, she's lovely, this one. Look at her. Look at me, I'm the host. On, live life in the fast lanes.
Get ready for me.
Good evening and welcome to Blankety Blank.
Simply gotta march my
Blank.
Don't bring around the crowd.
Come on, chop, chop. That's delicious.
Paul O'Grady has been a part of our lives for over 40 years.
You've done it all.
From our love of Lily Savage to his love of dogs.
I'm not some cheap tart at the Vauxhall Tavern, you know.
We're going to be celebrating him by talking to the people who loved him on screen
He could make me laugh in a way that no one else could.
and off screen.
He was always the same, he never changed. That was him, that was just him.
That was it. He was show business.
We'll relive some of our favourite Paul moments and unearth those unseen gems that show how the man from Birkenhead became a legend.
Come up and see me to make me smile.
I'd rarely met someone so genuinely funny before.
Gabby, you're 40, eh? Tell the truth.
My goodness me, he loved a live audience. You had no idea what was going to come out of her mouth next.
Help yourself. Look at me as a Fisher-Price playing lane centre.
But he was always really professional as well. So he'd get the job done and then he'd cause the mischief. You know, like a demon. And that was our Paul.
Paul's extraordinary journey started in a humble council house on the rain-lashed streets of Birkenhead in the 50s.
Someday I'm gonna write the story of my life.
I was born in the Tranmere workhouse during a violent thunderstorm on the 14th of June, 1955. That's only partly true. I just fancied a bit of melodrama. That's an understatement.
Paul was, obviously, working-class lad, brought up in Birkenhead. You never forget that. It never leaves you.
He would talk about where he grew up. He'd talk about this fabulous person, his best friend called Vera.
It takes me back to my childhood when I used to share a bed with my sister Vera, and, like, she was a habitual bedwetter. My mother used to say, "What end of the bed do you want, Lil? Say, I'll have the shallow end, please."
Well, I first met Paul when we were both 18, but we used to go out and get drunk quite a lot. Scraping a living together and, you know, making the most of what you had. And we were very mischievous, put it that way. I won't go as far as saying scallywags. When I met him, Paul was working in a children's convalescent home for disabled children, doing about 12-hour shifts. He'd do, like, little plays with them, and he was very good at art and had them all in stitches. You know, he worked hard. Because he did such long shifts in the care home, you get, like, 3 or 4 days off at a time. So then he's working at the Bearsport nightclub as well, to, you know, bump his money up. That's what working-class people did in them days. You know, they had no option but to get on with it.
Life wasn't always easy. Paul came from a hard-working, hard-talking family, none more so than his mother.
She was a good laugh, his mother. She made you laugh, but she didn't mean to.
Because it's quite a matriarchal society, our family, because a lot of the men were away at sea. So you had tough women. You know, you had my Auntie Chrissy, my Auntie Annie, my mum, who was a bit of a maniac, depending on whether the moon was full or not.
Yeah.
So, no, really. So it's sort of rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
You know, my mum had a sharp tongue. So did my Auntie Chris.
His aunt, who he always used to do the picture of her he'd paint, was this heavily pregnant woman, cigarette roll up out of her, hanging out of her mouth, you know, scarf in rollers. Just like, I love that.
She was quite glamorous and looked like Marlene. And, yeah, just a, you know, typical working-class family. I was very close to his mother.
I said to her, "I'm gay." And she totally ignored me. Completely. She was rooting under the stairs for the bird cage. Don't ask. And I said, I'm coming out. She said, well, you better get back in before I knock you back in. You know, she was like, gave me arse. You know, it was like...
So, but I guess it wouldn't have come as a huge surprise to her because she must have...
I think it would have, because don't forget our girlfriends as well.
Yeah. She saw your child being born, didn't she? Was she around when you had your baby?
No, I kept that quiet as well.
So you kept a lot of secrets?
Kept everything quiet,
Why
yeah.
did you keep so much quiet?
Bloody terrified of her, that's why.
Lily Savage owed a lot to those women.
If you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place.
With a child to support and wings to spread, in 1974, Paul headed for the capital in search of work.
He said that he got off the train in London. He looked around and he said it was dirty and it was grubby and there was blooming people walking around, and he went, I'd find my home. You know, he found himself.
And it didn't take long for Paul to find his calling, caring for down-on-their-luck families living in poverty in Camden Town.
Yeah, and he was working for Camden Council. If a mother had to go into hospital, he used to have to go in and live in their flat with these children till they came out of hospital. It wasn't just children he looked after pensioners or whatever. He did that job for a couple of years, and then he started doing the drag shows in the evenings. He had one lot of kids up in Chalk Farm, and he took them all to the cinema one day in Camden High Street. And they all got kicked out because all the kids were jumping all over the chairs and screaming and shouting and everything else. Anyway, he got them all out of there, and then he got them on the bus. They got threw off the bus then as well, and then they all ran away from him. And you know, it was like, he came out from work like a lunatic, you know.
Paul's day job was as demanding as they come, and his sideline at the cabaret wasn't coming easy either.
It took a while for Savage to develop into Savage. He was very nervous about picking up a mic when I first met him. I was judging a talent competition at a place called the Black Cap in Camden Town, and this long, streaky, gangly-looking thing walked on, and a riding crop slapping his thighs, miming to a song called Lesbian Butch Dyke. And he was terrible. And I remember leaning over to one of the other judges and said, this one will never get anywhere. How wrong was I?
Hello. Cecil B. Dimmitt. Hi, in the studio. I'm just coming in now and a packet of ciggies. I'm supposed to wash a dish and that.
Well, he became very big on the gay scene. There used to be a pub over the road called the Elephant Castle, and he became so popular, and it was such a small pub, that he moved over to the Vauxhall Tavern, and you know, to get more people in. And then I got a job behind the bar here then. So I was there for 7 years.
Wow. This is where I met him. The Royal Vauxhall Tavern. My God, they've cleaned it up. We cram into here about 9:30. The place would be heaving, literally, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. The crowd was rough, and he tamed us like a lion tamer with 5 whips and a whistle.
Good evening, one and all, with all the lady queens.
It was like being in a club in Berlin in the 1930s. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was like a Wild West saloon. Smoke on, you know, the ciggy on the stage, and you know, drink whiskey and all this carry on. You know.
Some acts were heckled from the start. You didn't heckle Savage.
Oh, you don't know my methods of how I deal with people, like ripping legs off.
He gotcha.
There's always fights and everything, you know. I'd see Lily jumping off the stage, dressed as Lily, you know, and getting in on the act and the fight, you know, and bizarre. Well, it was great fun, though. We had great times, you know.
Scuffles at the RVT weren't unusual. But in 1987, a police raid shook the community.
I was doing the Late Show, and I'd only been in here about 10 minutes, and a copper burst in the dressing room. And I, of course, thought he was the stripper, you know, the male stripper dressed as a copper. And when I came out on the stage, there behind me, the place was heaving. Tables and chairs were going over. The police were extremely aggressive. And, of course, it was the height of the AIDS pandemic, so this was a perfect excuse for them all to come in. And they were all wearing rubber gloves.
Because they all had gloves on. And what are their gloves on for? And then when he said, you know, you come to see the washing up, love, we were all... A place went up. A place went up.
Paul was always using social justice in his comedy, but social causes would shape and inform his life forever.
Times were rough in that there was a lot of homophobia, and there was Thatcher and Section 28, and Paul was more militant than some.
The reason we're here tonight, the three of us, is because of Clause 28, yes.
But those situations it's quite good for comedy and cabaret. You know, you've got something to push against, you've got something to be angry about, and it does unite everyone.
Paul worked hard as ever and honed his act in front of his adoring audiences.
Who gave you permission to video me? Thank you very much.
But he finally had to make the heartbreaking decision to give up the day job he loved.
He was really into his job. He, you know, being a social worker was his calling. But he had to give up the work because he could only spread himself so thinly. And I think when you know you're a performer, which he knew deep down, nothing's going to stop you performing.
After 13 years working the underground circuit, Paul was about to be launched into the big time.
Listen, I've got to show you this handbag. Now, this came from Glasgow. This did. Look at this. Weddings, funerals. How's that for a bargain, eh?
He went to the Edinburgh Festival and was nominated for the Perrier Awards, and that kicked him off.
What we would like to do for you is a number about jealousy, passion, and bitter betrayal.
He was the greatest performer. He was also a great storyteller. And the combination of the two was the reason why he could break ground that nobody else did by taking Lily Savage onto prime time television. And all he did was cleaned up the act.
I'd have the police rounds, and I'd have Arvada behind the bar so the till'd be empty come 5:30.
I was really pleased for him, you know, he deserved it. Slogging around nightclubs for years and years.
Can't we have a threesome tag team? I don't mean a threesome, like...
Wait a minute.
It was an extraordinary and groundbreaking moment. An openly gay man in drag was having breakfast with the nation.
Anyone who's ever seen Paul first thing in the morning will know that early mornings weren't his thing.
Don't mess around with me, no messing this morning.
Lily had made it onto our screens. The nation loved her, and she wasn't leaving anytime soon.
Thank you, I'll get it myself.
Flights, hotels, experiences. The best city breaks made easy. TUI, live happy. Financially protected by Atoll.
Julian. Julian.
Oh, are we on?
We're on.
Paul O'Grady's alter ego, Lily Savage, burst onto our TV screens in 1995.
I tell you, don't mess around with me. No messing this morning, I'm telling you now.
Presenting the chaotic Big Breakfast.
One smile and suddenly nobody else is here.
And how cool was it that there was a drag queen on breakfast telly every morning?
And Lily was soon at the heart of British primetime entertainment too, beaming into homes all over the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lily Savage.
I love Blankety Blank, and I really like Lily Savage. And it was like, sort of instant, yeah, this is absolutely perfect.
Good evening. People think I'm one of the Dizzy Men. Good evening. God, I've been on my knees like that for nothing for ages.
I think Paul always had a very clear idea as to where the line was that he wouldn't go over. And so when he would tell risque jokes as Lily on a family show like Blankety Blank, he kind of pitched that perfectly.
I bought a grandfather clock last year. It doesn't do anything. It just stands in the corner, blanking. I've seen my grandfather stood in the corner, blanking.
Just brilliant.
These boots are made for walking.
Lily was now one of our most loved comic characters.
He would never just get up on stage because Lily wasn't just wig and makeup, but it's a whole world that he created for her.
Known for her outrageous outfits.
He was very beautiful as Lily Savage. I mean, he was such a good-looking man, and he had these beautiful legs.
She obviously was about 7'13" tall, with him in heels, and the wigs and the everything.
Start Sunday at 9.
And the glorious dresses.
And her ability to make any situation hilarious.
He knew what the audience wanted, and that what was so unique about him.
Meanwhile, Charles is checking out the best local booze to have on your hulls, along with Lily at long last. Hi.
Hi.
Are you coming over here, or are we coming
No,
over
you're
there?
coming over to us. You're coming over to us.
Nice to see you, by the way.
And he knew how to take it just a little bit further than they should.
Basically, the southern heart of Portugal before you get to the Algarve, Alentejo, and...
Lily was there, chucking it in the dock.
Oh, there we are. I've never liked...
Russian, then.
I've never liked that shape of glass anyway.
Italian. Wasn't your glass, was it?
No, it wasn't. No. All belongs to the Granada.
It's only a glass.
We'll send you a bill later.
And that was Paul. And Lily.
And above all, Lily made us laugh.
And this is a French beer.
It's disgusting. What is it? It tastes like that stuff you put in cat litter trays to get rid of the smell. It's vile.
He was so popular, and quite rightly so. He worked hard, you know. He worked hard to develop that character, and it was a wonderful, wonderful character.
You'll only be playing with Ben. Ben, this is up to you.
I know, I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous, love. Don't be nervous. Just lie down and shut your eyes. Don't be nervous.
Lily was everywhere, bringing her unique brand of entertainment to the whole country.
The word I always think of about Lily is vicious.
Me and Gabby Roslin used to be circuit strippers together. Gabby Roslin can spin a tassel at 90 miles an hour.
I didn't think that the truth was ever going to come out, but Savage revealed all, and yeah, I don't do it anymore.
Honest to God, we used to turn it on in the dressing room and stand there in that terrible summer. To dry our hair in front of her, spin it a bit faster, Gabby.
There's no one that's ever going to be like Paul and Lily. Ever, ever, ever.
Is this the same person that Shiley used to say to me all those years ago, I can't pick up a mic? No, could shut him up now.
I thought, well, I'll carry another woman's eggs for them. I don't mean I had a market stall, you know what I mean? No, I had 18, yes.
18 what?
Babies in a period of 3 years. Oh, I was prolific. What? I had to have my pelvic floor laminated, I'm telling you.
It could be who he wanted to be with Lily, couldn't he? He could say what he wanted to say.
Robbie Williams here in the front. Got your edible, Robbie. Edible. Have you ever considered an older woman, have you? A bit of stewing steak instead of flash fry. People say to me, why would you never get up as yourself and do stand-up? And I always say, because that would be my opinion. And I'd be scared of offending, to tell you the truth. But as Lily, you can get away with murder. You know, you can just stand there and talk a load of nonsense, which I quite frequently do and get paid for it.
Everyone wanted a piece of Lily, and she appeared in numerous advertising campaigns, even being the face and legs for one of Britain's most well-known women's tights brands.
I remember seeing the Pretty Polly tight. That was a great photo, great legs, and I just thought, how fabulous.
And the contracts kept rolling in. She even got her own BBC series in 1997, which she immediately stamped with the inimitable Lily style.
Well, thank you, good evening, and welcome to the show. It's not like Cilla Black, don't I?
Thank you, good evening, welcome to the show.
This is good advice for you at home. My mother said to me, she said, Lily, never go out without a pot of pepper in your handbag. And I've always stuck to that advice. I don't mean a little one, I mean one of them big wooden ones you get. Everybody gets laid, each go, that's your chef.
But despite Lily's success, behind the scenes, Paul was starting to dream of a life without her.
Now, what's this rumour that there is about Mr O'Grady killing you off?
Don't talk to me about that four-eyed fruit. I've had enough of him.
He was perfectly turned out. The wig always had to be absolutely perfectly done. It was a huge job to do it.
Barbara, I'll tell you, the excesses of show business got the better of me. You know, and when you find yourself in a skip at 5 o'clock in the morning... with one of the Bay City rollers on your back or a mini... You think, Lily, it's time to call it a day, love.
In 2001, Lily gave the performance of her life in front of no other than Her Majesty the Queen.
It was Paul, Barbara and Cilla.
The Queen watching from the royal box. And Lily comes up. Nipple tassels go.
From the moment it happened, it was iconic. It absolutely brought the house down, and it was the most talked about thing.
Wait till you refine it.
If you wanna bump it with a trumpet. Get yourself a gimmick and you too can be.
And when they finished, the audience literally raised the roof.
And with a final thrust of her tassels, Lily was gone.
I think it got a bit too much for Paul, and he said he looked at himself and went, nah, I've had enough. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be myself.
I remember the day he told me that he was going to give up doing Lily. I said, you're crazy. I said, why do you want to bite the hand that feeds you? I said, Lily's a megastar. So, Torres, I've just had enough dragging these frocks around and the wigs and the makeup. I said, well, I understand it, but I think you're a fool. How wrong was I?
By 2004, Paul was ready to show us the man behind the makeup. Lily's working-class glamour may have gone, but his comic genius was getting better and better.
This is the very first Paul O'Grady show, and I'm going to be honest
Normally,
with you.
the public don't like you reinventing yourself because you belong to them. So he took a real risk, and it worked because he gave them Lily without the drag.
It quickly became the biggest show on telly, and the stars couldn't wait to hang out with our Paul, and Buster, of course.
I've got some great guests today. Sir Ian McKellen, Joan Rivers, Jack D, Mr. Simon Cowell, Miss Mariah Carey, the legend herself, the one and only Cilla Black. Lady Gaga!
After taming baying crowds at the Vauxhall Tavern and Black Cap, handling A-listers was a piece of cake.
Can I come to Rome with you, Gaga? Do you need somebody to tidy up, carry a teacup?
You are not allowed to carry anything. You are Paul O'Grady.
For you, sweetheart, I'll carry you. No.
But he was never like a people pleaser. He didn't give a monkeys who you were. Everyone was treated the same. Everyone.
When are you going to go and find some time for yourself today? You're not, are you?
It's actually quite nice. I have a electrical USB in the back of my phone. And they just
plug it in.
And
Right, we're plugging Gaga in for 10 minutes. There you go. There, look. He's killing now.
Paul effortlessly adapted his unique risque humour for a family audience, and soon his show was raking in huge viewing figures.
She's going to belt me in the gob with this. This big fella is Humpty, biggest donkey I've ever seen. You got any donkey facts for us?
Yeah, well, the donkey...
You miss doing stand-up and being Lily, because Lily Savage was a huge hit.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
Not at all. So you don't miss, but do you miss the persona of Lily?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
His wit was like sharp, and you were just waiting for the next one to drop.
I took Cilla to see the X-Men, and she fell asleep. In the X-Men, you know, the racket's like World War III. Well, she woke up in the choir bit and she went, oh, my God, I haven't been snoring, have I, Paul? You've got a mouth like a bee's bum, as my mother would say. Stinging remarks.
Pot's kettle black, O'Grady.
Do you ever go home and, like, cry in bed in the wee small hours of the morning? Do you think I've been really mean?
No.
Really?
No.
Oh, he's hard.
They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah. Jazz it up, Phil. The meanest gal in town. She's hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah.
Paul was so in demand, he could pick and choose which programmes he wanted to appear on. So when he was given the chance to hunt for a ghost on Most Haunted, he couldn't refuse.
Paul and myself have come down into the cellar. We are completely on our own. We have a webcam with us.
Come on, if there's anybody here, please show yourself.
What? Don't leave me in here! Paul saw what he thought was a figure.
It looked like something was coming out here slowly. Seriously.
With Lily firmly left behind, the next phase of Paul's life was all about him having fun.
I don't know, I just don't like it. Maybe because there's other battles and I haven't got an opener. But...
Whether it was with ghosts or dogs. Paul O'Grady proved he could be a success in a dress
Take what you like.
or out of one. But the one constant throughout his life was his awareness of social injustice.
He was not only brilliant as an entertainer, he was a force for good.
Either campaigning against discrimination or for the vulnerable.
He not only wanted a better world, he got his hands dirty and he fought for it.
He was driven to take a stand.
Talking of nits, George Osborne, what do we think? Is it up or is it down?
Paul could have made a great Prime Minister, I think. He would have been in or out of drag. He would have been fantastic. His ethics and his morals and his standards was second to none.
I'd sooner have Ozzy Osbourne as Chancellor. I tell you what, because at least with Ozzy, the only cuts made would be the effing and blinding from his speech, that's all.
He wasn't just a fighter for the underdog, somebody who was willing to use his platform, you know, to speak up for people who didn't have a platform, didn't have a voice. But also he could do it in a totally compelling way, much more compelling than any politician.
Do you know what got my back up? Oh, those Tories whooping and hollering when they heard about the cuts. Did you see them? So, yay! You have sound that was going to scrap the pension. Yay! No more wheelchairs. Yay!
He goes into a rant about injustice, naming the politicians. And that was bold, that was brave. He could have been taken off air, but you couldn't separate him from his principles.
I do apologise for the language, that just fell out. I bet when they were children, they laughed in Bambi when his mother got shot. I bet you.
He spoke out and he got involved because he cared. The compassion that he had for people was the compassion that he took in for animals.
Over the years,
Come here.
Paul was a staunch supporter of animal causes.
Hey, Andy.
Hello,
Lovely to
Paul.
meet you.
And who's this beauty? This is Bailey.
Hey, Bailey. Whoa, you handsome lad.
My life was in a mess, and just caring for him got me to sort myself out.
I was going to say, has he pulled you through?
Yes. Paul remembered my name immediately. Even that just makes you feel 8 feet tall, you know? I hadn't seen him for a year and he still remembered my name, the dog. I think you have preconceived ideas of TV people, but such a genuine man, you know? There was no difference from him off camera to on camera. He was just delightful to speak to, and he really, really did care about the animals. He took my phone number, and then one day I got a call out of the blue, and he invited me to Kent, to his lovely home farm.
Paul was living in the countryside, where he had space to care for even more animals.
You were greeted by this cacophony of dogs. And of course, then he had the alpacas, chickens, the owls, the pigs.
You get in there and he'd roll around with the pigs. He said, "Come on in, Linda." I said, "Well, that's all right." You know, and then eventually I'd just go in there, muck out, you know, get your muck clothes on. And then when I was down there once, a little calf was born and he's pulling it out.
I always wanted, you know, I'd always fancied myself with a bit of land and a couple of bit of livestock. Of course, I never thought it'd ever happen.
When I was living in the same village as him in Kent, the joke was always that it was all serene and quiet and clean in my house, whereas his was chaos. There were a lot of animals, and the sheep, they'd recognise his voice and they'd come galloping towards him.
He used to be feeding sheep at the breakfast table, giving them bottles.
Absolutely adored any animals. I mean, went downstairs, the cow was in the kitchen eating the leftover birthday cake. Absolutely kid you not. And I wasn't worried about that. I was like, there's a new oak floor he's just put down.
Just a wonderful place to be if you love animals. If you don't like animals, stay away.
In 2012, Paul's passion for all things feathered and furred led to another new chapter in his TV career.
O'Grady, get up! I'm up! I'm up! I'm up! What am I doing in boots? Oh, no, it's not. It's Battersea. I'm a bit confused.
Well, when Paul first turned up, we didn't expect the programme to really take off, but we were in for a bit of a surprise.
Where are we going? Oh,
there we go.
Now, my glasses now. I gotcha.
He was just hilarious.
I think he thinks I'm an 18-year-old stuntman.
We were quite struck with how the show became such a hit.
Who could not love this little fella? Well, he's due for a bath.
Paul would immerse himself, mucking in.
He looks like E.T., look.
Whether he's bathing them or grooming them or walking them or getting covered in slobber and fur.
For me, one of the big things I will miss is the laughter. Infectious. He would laugh, you would laugh.
Oh, you big old sexy thing.
Being so comfortable around dogs, that love of dogs, you cannot fake it, believe me. And that's what came across to the viewers, and that's why they tuned in their millions, really, because they could see it too.
So he's looking for a home, this fella?
Well, I think I've got a home lined up already.
Okay, you don't. No, no, no. She's at it again, folks.
He'd worry about them when they were poorly. You just had that feeling that he was there throughout the whole journey. It is neglect, for sure. He'd sit in on their operations. He'd spend time with them in their kennel when they were convalescing. And he'd like to be with them when they were sort of coming round from their anaesthetic.
Oh, sweetie.
So he really did care.
Not only was he so funny, he was such a genuine person, and that's what people believed in. They believed in him because he does wear his heart on his sleeve.
I'm afraid the news isn't good. Consensus is that there's nothing that can be done.
Oh, dear God. It's not fair. He's such a nice dog. Hey, where's your Paul? I'm off then, I'll leave you. OK, old fella. Look after yourself, yeah?
The show proved the perfect vehicle for Paul, and once again, the awards kept coming.
This was so unexpected. Thank you so much.
Having proven himself with dogs.
Oh, look at that. Now, you wouldn't want to mess with them, Brian. No way.
In 2014, Paul went further afield, travelling to Africa for his most adventurous animal meeting so far.
If you give a negative vibe to them, then their claws will come out and they'll start to bite.
They're going to look for people.
That's right.
They want to find us.
No.
They were actually quite large lions. And he went in there with a tiny little stick the size of a pencil and said, I'll be all right.
I feel stupid with this little stick.
Paul's latest success meant he was busier than ever. Social causes were always a priority.
Oh, this is fabulous.
And in 2016, he spent 6 months with the Salvation Army.
I'm part of the team, and you're there marching with your drum, and it's just sensational.
But Paul's first love was dogs, and he was now attracting a string of A-list celebrities to Battersea.
Look at him. Well, he definitely likes Tom. We've established that here now, defo. Look at that face, Sharon.
A little bit fish-like.
He continued to champion their mission of finding new owners for homeless animals.
Diane, Anna, are you looking for a dog? He's such a good lad.
Oh, look, he's warming to you.
He's not been rehomed yet, no?
No, not yet. Looking for a nice home.
Oh, he's so lovely. Oh, God. There we go.
Nearly in the bag.
What do you think? How did I end up with Nancy? He's a dog pusher. Ta-da!
What do you think, Jennifer?
Gorgeous. He's like silk. He's like silk.
It's like, you know, temptation. He's no trouble, and, you know, and he's good with other dogs.
Now he's showing off, look.
Oh, he's doing glamour poses now,
Glamour
look.
pose,
Yeah, bit of glamour
definitely
work.
glamour work.
My husband, he wanted an Italian greyhound. And then I went on Paul's show and came out with this little ginger, well, Paul said it was a Jack Russell. Clearly, after a few months, was a Staffy. So I had to break it to my husband that we're not getting an Italian greyhound, you're having a ginger Staffy. And that caused a bit of sulking.
Paul even tried to push a rescue animal onto the most famous dog lover in the country.
He's a big boy.
The dogs do get
Didn't even look at the Queen once.
But he doesn't need a royal home, he just needs a home.
And I know the Queen was very, very at ease with him, and he would have tea with her. And the reason that the Queen liked talking to Paul is that so few people knew how to talk to her. Paul could talk to anybody.
Queen loved him. And of course, all they did was to talk about animals and farming. And she loved his sense of humour.
I mean, genuinely.
Oh, just give us the bottle.
But Paul's sense of fun could lead him astray
Cheers, anyway.
and might easily have ruined his special relationship with Her Majesty.
Mo Molan was the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and Mo had an idea that she wanted to celebrate what the ordinary women and men of Northern Ireland had done to make a difference. Savage was encouraged to come over, and the benefit was at the Royal Opera House, and Mo said to me, get him back to Hillsborough Castle, we'll have a party. Savage loved a party. Off we went, Hillsborough Castle, and it went on really, really late. And when I woke in the morning, there was this banging on my door, and I heard, Mr. Cashman, Mr. Cashman, someone's sleeping on the Queen's bed. And I thought, oh, Savage! And it was. I wonder if he told her.
Oh, God. Oh, excuse me, where are we? New Orleans. That's a nice stop.
Paul was born to be an entertainer.
Paul O'Grady was at the top of his game and had been entertaining the nation for almost 40 years.
Bit of us, please.
The boy from Birkenhead who became a social worker and then became Lily Savage.
To see him transition into mainstream television was breathtaking.
Had reinvented himself as a TV chat show host, bringing his friends along for the ride.
Paul brought all his mates in. He made sure life was a blast.
I think he just wanted to, you know, to get us on it. And we were a lot easier to interview than, he said, the big stars. You know, he was like, oh, I can talk to you, like, you make it easy for me.
At great expense and a lot of difficulty with social services, we've managed to get it here. Will you please put your hands together and welcome the legend herself, the one and only Cilla Black.
He'd even established himself as an actor on stage and on our TVs.
Where does this dear old lady live? Well, the saturation's vivid enough. Have you measured the carrot?
I have.
And?
It's 12 millimetres by 14.
8 carrots!
Paul won numerous awards across his career, even receiving an MBE.
He was very proud of that. He was born in the 50s, gay, Birkenhead, proper working class. Those things didn't happen to kids like that.
But he wasn't seduced by success. His attitude to the MBE and the television awards and the BAFTA would be brilliant. But what do we do next?
And in his private life, he married English national ballet dancer Andre Potasio in 2017. Paul lived life to the full and loved every minute.
He was always ferociously funny, of course, and people absolutely loved him.
He made life fun. He knew how to live, he knew how to have fun, and he knew that work should be fun.
But the job he kept returning to was in South London at Battersea.
Hi.
Paul.
He could help all the other waifs and strays.
Oh, do you know how special you are?
And he was kept busy for 12 years.
It's a tough job, sweetie. Oh, yes, I know.
I got some troubles, but they won't last.
All the animals seemed calm around him, and my belief is that's because he was a good spirit.
He always set me next to the nutter in the hairdressers. Always. Oh, is that how you get attention round here?
Sugar town.
Look at this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Isn't he handsome?
Babysitting puppies was one of his many talents.
Paul was really like Cruella de Vil, to a degree. He did play that part, but more so he could smell puppies.
I knew it. I knew you'd have
you found
puppies.
us.
I could smell
I
them.
tried so hard.
I could smell them as soon as I left the house.
Paul helped rehome over 300 dogs at Battersea.
Alfie, how you doing, big fella? Yeah, how are you? Hey, look at that sad face. Oh, my God, Alfie.
And he welcomed a royal visitor to meet some of them.
I hope he hasn't had his dinner already.
No, he wouldn't. Hasn't been eating at all.
Hasn't he been
No,
eating?
not at all.
Well,
No.
he obviously needs you to look after him.
This-
We could share him. We'll do a time share.
Okay, I'll have him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you can have him
Yeah,
for the
I'll
rest
have
of the
him.
week.
I said to him, you are like Dr. Dolittle. I've never seen anyone just be able to relate to animals. It would just be putty in his hands.
And when he couldn't get a home for a dog,
Your serious temptation.
he just took it home himself.
You can take her home.
Oh, fabulous. Come here, Flower. How do you feel about you getting in? Go on, then. She's going back in. Come on, sausage.
Paul cared, and it obviously comes from how he was brought up.
Have you had a bit of a life, Cocky, have you? Have you been a bit of a wild boy?
It gave him that social conscience. Work as a social worker, what he had to do, look physically, looking after people, cleaning them.
Go into show business, I said to myself. Be a fabulous, glamorous life, I said to myself.
The jobs that he did before becoming famous.
Have you got a little flea?
Yeah, a little flea.
It's all right, I'm used to doing nits on kids' heads. No, I am from when I worked at the kids' home. Nitty Nora, the bug explorer, taking nits out of kids' heads. I used to love it.
Oh, quite satisfying.
It is, because you sit there and get the tooth comb and then start cracking.
Oh, my God.
You could see, I mean, that he cared. I mean, passionately cared.
There you go.
He was a product of his environment.
It's not that bad. What's up at you?
That's what I mean by authentic, you know, that it was set in reality.
And this reminds me of a police wagon. I've been in a couple of them in my time.
Steady.
Not even the pandemic could stop him working at Battersea.
Now then, who am I going to take home? Oh, I feel like Charlie in the chocolate factory here.
Or at home, where he found time to write a children's book.
All right, Ed. Hey? This story is about a young boy called Eddie Albert, who had an amazing secret. Now, if you sat next to Eddie on a bus or you walked past him in the street, you'd be forgiven for thinking he was just an ordinary 10-year-old boy. A bit scruffy, perhaps, not very tall, with an unruly mop of blonde hair, but nothing in the least remarkable about him. Well, you'd be wrong.
Very few entertainers were actually loved, and Paul was one of them. He was loved, really dearly loved.
It's perfect that he was working right to the end. He always said to me, I'll never make old bones, but I thought he would outlive us all. Perhaps the exit that he made was perfect in a way for him.
Paul.
I just want to say thank you for everything you gave us.
Put a spell on you.
Thank you for being the maverick and the wonderful friend you were, and they broke the mould when they made you.
You know, we've been like that, so close for nearly 50 years, but I will miss them dreadfully.
You better stop the things you do.
I've learned a lot from you, and it's going to stay with me forever.
I ain't lying.
Thank you, Paul, for everything you did for others, for these, and especially myself.
Thank you, Savage, for being my friend, for being naughty, for making me laugh.
Does he be telling me now? Pull yourself together, you silly cow.
We had an absolute riot. He was so wonderful.
If you were loved by Paul, you were really loved.
God's blessings, and may you rest in a long and peaceful sleep.
The absolute legend that was Paul O'Grady and Lily Savage.
You lit up our lives. Now light up the sky.
Well, that's me now. I'm off home. You lot look after yourselves, yeah? Take care. Bye-bye. Take it easy, folks. Ta-ra.
Filmed before his passing, join Paul back at Battersea for the start of a new series of Paul O'Grady for the Love of Dogs on Thursday night at 8:30. Next on ITV1 this Easter Sunday, we begin our 3-part adaptation of Agatha Christie's Why Didn't They Ask Evans?